Thank you. I'd like to ask the Council to officially oppose cell towers on school grounds. Cell towers emit microwave radiation, with radiation levels highest near the vicinity of the tower. They may meet government radiation standards, but many scientists now state that these guidelines are thousands of times too high to protect health. Yale doctors, including the chief of obstetrics at Yale Medicine, is stating that pregnant women should reduce exposures to this radiation because of experimental studies showing brain damage in offspring, poor memory, and hyperactivity. That's the Baby Safe Project, and I have information for you on that. I'm also handing you a letter from Dr. Herbert, a Harvard neurologist and autism expert, who states that the radiation will impact children's ability to learn. A 2014 Environmental Science and Policy article written by human rights experts looked at the issue, reviewed the science, and said, any systematic form of environmental pollution that poses a long-term threat to a child's right to life, development, or health may constitute an international human rights violation. And they make the case in this really long article, which is really worth reading. The lack of legislation on the cell towers in close proximity to children's facilities and schools clearly constitutes a human rights concern. In addition to the radiation issue, cell towers present a whole bunch of other safety issues. The Department of Labor is investigating the, quote, alarming rate of worker accidents and deaths in tower workers. PBS Frontline just did a piece, said tower workers have 10 times more times the death rate than the average construction worker, and OSHA cites these deaths as all preventable and wrote a letter concerned about objects falling from towers that are hurting workers to the cell tower companies, stating you need to take care of this as your preventable deaths. Well, what about our kids who will be directly in the fall zone? The EMR Policy Institute tested sites in 23 states and found them in violation of radiation limits, yet not a single fine was levied. This industry has a bad track record. It has poor enforcement of safety regulation, and it has no place on schools. Cell towers also catch on fire, as they did last fall. The one at an Oregon high school was on Saturday, and only bushes were burned. But if kids had been there, they would have been right under where something fell and caught fire. Cell towers bring hazardous materials like diesel fuel tanks and banks of lead-acid batteries on school grounds. And the diesel fuel tank generators are run up to 45 minutes weekly near tennis courts or bleachers, and this will impact kids with asthma or anyone with any respiratory issues, especially if you look at Flowers. It is right near where the bleachers are is where the generator will be. So these are residentially zoned areas, and these are children's schools. Do we want a commercial business on our schools? Furthermore, the towers aren't going through the special exception hearing process. Can I just finish my sentence?
Sure.
The special exception hearing process, despite meeting PG code requirements for a hearing, and you can contact me about that. And I believe the notification process to homeowners has failed. I've knocked on doors. I can't tell you how many people say, what? I'm like, yeah, there's a tower going up right there. The lease has been signed, and they haven't heard anything about it. Things are sent out, but you just don't notice the way the mailings are. So with such scientific controversy and safety issues, I recommend we use common sense and keep them off school grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me ask a question, and maybe there'll be some other questions. Is this proposal to keep them off school grounds for the entire Prince George's County, or is it a statewide proposal, or?
Well, in Greenbelt, the council voted unanimously to just make a statement and write a letter to the school board about it and ask for transparency. Do I think there should be a state legislation? Absolutely. And I know that was started with some Anne Arundel delegates way back. I didn't see it on the platform but hey, I think it's really important. There is that legislation on non-educational uses of school property. I don't know if it's Senator Valentino is her name. I don't think that has enough in it for this issue. It's a really complicated issue when it comes to cell towers because of the federal regulations. But even if local communities are not being, those rights are being pulled away as to what you can say about siting and such. But I think that we still can have a voice, and that's what I believe. So.
Thank you. I appreciate
Mr. Mayor,
it. All right, Dr.
may,
Kabir.
may I ask, was there any attempt by any of the cell companies to put cell towers in any of the Greenbelt school, like Greenbelt Middle or somewhere?
Well, right now there are 73, there's a master leasing agreement that the school board signed way back a couple years ago that has 73 schools as available cell tower sites. And they state in that agreement up to 3 cell towers on a school, actually. You can start with 1 and then you can add 2 more. 1 more and then the other one has to go through, I think, just someone else okaying it. But
Yeah. Can you please send that list to us?
sure,
Make
I actually I have the list here. I'll hand it to her.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And all I want to, can I just say one thing? A lot of times, people aren't, even the PTAs aren't finding out till after leases have been signed. I've been in a room where that exact thing happened. So that is a big concern of mine. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for coming tonight. And thanks for bringing material for us as well.